What if one morning you woke up and realized that everything you had worked so hard to achieve, every success, every milestone, came at the cost of the very people who once gave your life meaning? What if, in your pursuit of greatness, you had silently lost the moments that made life beautiful? This is the story of Emma, a woman whose success story inspired many, but whose heart carried a quiet ache she could no longer ignore. From a young age, Emma had dreams bigger than her small hometown. She wanted to escape the noise of poverty, the limitations of her surroundings, and prove that she could make something extraordinary out of an ordinary life. Her mother, a kind woman with gentle eyes and rough hands from years of hard work, always told her, "Success is wonderful, my dear, but don't let it cost your peace." Every morning, her mother would sit by the small kitchen table, pour 2 cups of tea, and say softly, "Come sit with me, just for 5 minutes before you leave." But Emma never did. She was always late for something, a class, a meeting, an interview. "Later, Mom," she'd say, grabbing her bag and rushing out the door, her footsteps fading faster than her mother's smile. Days turned into months, months into years, and Emma's hard work began to pay off. She graduated with honors, got a high-paying job in the city, and eventually became a respected businesswoman known for her determination and brilliance. Her apartment was beautiful, clean, modern, everything she once dreamed of. Yet every time she sat down for breakfast, her eyes wandered toward the empty chair across from her. It was as if something invisible sat there, staring back at her with quiet disappointment. One day, while preparing for an important meeting, her phone rang. It was a neighbor from her hometown. Her mother had fallen ill. Emma rushed to the hospital, but by the time she arrived, it was too late. The world seemed to blur around her as she stood in silence beside the hospital bed. Her mother's hands, once so full of life, now rested still, peaceful, as if waiting for that 5 minutes she'd never gotten. After the funeral, Emma went back to her childhood home. It was smaller than she remembered, quieter too. Dust floated through the sunlight that came in from the window, landing on the same old wooden table where her mother used to sit. The second teacup was still there, faint stains of time marking where love once lived. Emma sat down slowly, her hand trembling as she touched the cup. Memories flooded back, her mother's laughter, her voice, her patience. For the first time in years, Emma allowed herself to cry, not the quiet tears of stress, but the kind that come from a heart that finally understands what it lost. Later that evening, while preparing for an important meeting, she found an envelope with her name written on it. Inside was a photo, one she didn't even remember being taken, of the two of them, smiling at that same table, 2 cups of tea between them. On the back of the photo, in her mother's delicate handwriting, were just a few words. "The chair wasn't for me, Emma. It was for you, so you'd never forget to rest." That message broke her. She realized her mother's invitation was never about the tea. It was about slowing down, about being present, about remembering that life isn't a race to the top, but a journey to the heart. That night, Emma brewed 2 cups of tea again, one for herself and one she left untouched across the table. She sat there for hours, in silence, feeling the presence of her mother in every corner of the room. The ticking clock, the smell of tea, the soft hum of the night, everything seemed to whisper the lesson she had ignored for years. When she returned to the city, Emma was not the same. She still worked hard, still chased her dreams, but she carried something new, a quiet awareness that success without peace is just exhaustion in disguise. She started visiting old friends, calling her relatives more often, spending mornings without her phone, and she even placed an old wooden chair in her apartment, the same kind her mother had. And every morning she'd pour 2 cups of tea, letting one sit untouched, watching the steam rise and fade like a conversation between the past and present. Over time, her colleagues noticed a change. She smiled more, listened more, and carried a calmness that made people wonder what had changed. Some said it was success, others said it was maturity. But only Emma knew the truth. It was understanding. She had finally learned that the true meaning of a happy, peaceful life isn't in achieving more, but in appreciating enough. And every morning, when she looked at that empty chair across from her, she didn't see loss anymore. She saw love, presence, and a gentle reminder from her mother that life's greatest moments are not measured in how far we go, but in how deeply we live before it's too late. Because, in the end, the real secret to happiness isn't in the things we gain, it's in the hearts we don't forget. Months passed, and Emma decided to visit her hometown again, not for guilt, but for gratitude. She donated books to the local school, sponsored a few young girls who reminded her of herself, and restored her childhood home to keep it as a place of quiet reflection. Every time she returned, she'd sit at that old kitchen table, sipping tea from her mother's cup, and speak softly as if her mother were still there, not out of sorrow, but love. One evening, as she sat there watching the sunset through her window, she noticed a little girl from the neighborhood peeking through the window, curious and shy. Emma smiled and waved her in. The girl hesitated, then stepped inside. They sat together, sipping tea, the girl telling her dreams and Emma listening intently. When the girl said she wanted to move to the city one day and make her mother proud, Emma smiled faintly and said, "That's beautiful. Just promise me something. When your mother asks for 5 minutes, give her 10. The girl nodded with a grin, not fully understanding, but Emma knew one day she would. As years went by, Emma's story became one she shared with others. She started mentoring young women who were chasing success the way she once had, helping them balance ambition with peace. She told them about the empty chair, the 2 cups of tea, and the lesson that changed her life. Her story spread, not through fame, but through hearts that recognized themselves in her journey. She didn't just become a successful woman anymore. She became a source of wisdom for those too busy to notice their own lives slipping by. And in her final years, when her hair turned silver and her steps slowed, she still began each morning the same way, 2 cups of tea, 1 untouched. One morning, as she gazed at the rising sun through her window, she whispered softly, "I'm ready, Mom." She closed her eyes peacefully, with the faintest smile, and somewhere, beyond what eyes can see, another cup of tea waited for her, still warm, still full. Because in the end, the true measure of life isn't in how high we climb, but in how much love we carry with us along the way. If this story inspired you and reminded you to slow down and cherish what truly matters, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Life, where every story brings you closer to life's deepest truths.